Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. So for today's podcast, I thought we'd talk about authenticity. I've got Alastair here with me again.
Hello.
I suppose I should start. I'm not sure where to start.
We should start.
Well, I was thinking about it and how, like, I'd been seeing a lot of things where people are different in different situations, but the same person.
Yeah.
And it's like, what part of them are showing themselves as real? And then I was thinking, well, am I like that too? And then I was thinking, well, I think what I do sometimes is sort of don't shine as bright, sort of dim my light a bit, not quite as wild. Let's go wild. I want to say crazy. Free as I usually am with you or close friends. You know, I'm a lot more measured.
Yeah.
But I'm still me. You know, I feel like I'm still being true. So I feel like now, I would say, you know, when I was younger it was different, but now I'm quite authentic with who I am. I'm sort of, I know who I am and I'm not afraid to be who I am. But yeah.
That's definitely something that comes with age. But I think, like, I don't think it's unauthentic to be different with different groups of people. It's because, like, the way you are with your family versus the way you are with your friends, the way you are with a different group of friends, the way you are with your work colleagues, they're all kind of different people. You kind of measure different parts of yourself. You can be more wild and free with certain groups of friends, other groups of friends. Well, they're not quite that way. And, you know.
But then don't you feel like you should just be yourself with whoever you're with?
Well, yes. But
do you think it's because it's like, is it a judgment thing or is it the right thing to do?
Well, that's it, because I don't know if it is the right thing to do, because I came into this thinking, well, you know, you should always be yourself and who cares what other people think of you. But if I'm talking to my boss, well, it's a different style of conversation and I'm a different person than if I'm talking to my friends, sitting down, having a beer and just being silly.
Yeah, but is that just the topics that bring out, you know?
It's more than just the topics, the way you react, the language you use. You know, it's some things you wouldn't say to your grandmother.
Well, is it just like being more respectful and
yes,
you're just a little bit less respectful?
Yeah.
With your, like, not disrespecting them, but just kind of a little more
free. A bit more
free.
casual.
Yeah.
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 So there's definitely that difference in the way people present themselves.
And, you know, what made me think of it was seeing someone we know and how different they were when they were with someone else.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd seen them in a different situation. And it's just like, oh, because it wasn't a nice version that I saw.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. It wasn't an improvement. It wasn't just them being more fully expressed or being more inhibited. It was more just they were not being authentic. I felt like they were not being true to themselves. They changed how they were being to be possibly accepted by that other person in a different way.
Definitely. And it's funny, I've always remembered, and this is a memory from primary school, I think primary 5 or 4 or something like that. So I don't know what age would I have been then, 10, something like that, 9, 10 years old, something like that. Anyway, and I remember I had this friend, and we were good friends, but then I was interacting with them with my older brother, and I was not nice because I thought that was, I don't know why, but it was definitely something because my brother was there and the person I was with my friend when we were alone was different from the person that I thought I had to be to my older brother. And I've never forgotten that. And it's always, I've disliked the person I was then. And that's definitely not being authentic. And that's definitely peer pressure or trying to fit in or, trying to impress someone, which I think young people especially do more. I think it's that thing. When you get older, you care less.
Well, I think it's different as well. I think you find yourself.
Yes, that's maybe true.
So it's like you are who you're being, and it takes time to discover yourself, because like in your early years, a lot of who you are is, what's expected of you, what you've been told you are.
Yeah.
We talked about the programming that comes from your parents, from the teachers, from adults, from kids, from everything around you, from TV programs, whatever is influencing you throughout your years, especially from when you're 0 to 7. Like they're the high influencing programming years. And it's only when you're sort of over 7 you become aware of yourself properly, and that's when you start to change and develop in a different way. And it takes time to
find out who you are.
Underneath all of who you thought you were.
Yeah, definitely. That is a part of it, I think.
So I think, I think it just takes time sometimes, and especially if you're still in a place where you feel you should be the
Someone
person
else
that is expected to be, And that's why you see a lot of rebellion in teenage years and a lot of that. And it's just like people trying to find themselves, find who they are. And they'll go through so many different phases to try and sort of discover what they like, who they are,
Yeah.
It's the voyage of discovery.
It is. And it's interesting, when I think about this, because when you're a teenager, you do rebel, and parents definitely have a effect on their children finding themselves. But it is that finding yourself, but it's more the accepting yourself. Because I think, to a degree, people try and be someone for their parents. They try and be the person that their parents want them to be. And, you may rebel against it and try not to be the person, but that's still kind of letting them influence who you're being. Yeah. If you're rebelling against them and you're trying to be the opposite of you're not being yourself still. I think it takes a certain amount of self-confidence and a certain amount of just life experience to be able to say, okay, this is who I am, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. I liked your sort of accepting, and I think as well there's a understanding of awareness of who you are. And we always come back to the awareness, but it's very important. It's like, for me, I was I'm a highly sensitive person. And so I would struggle in situations where, I was expected to go out and enjoy life and be part of all the parties. And, whereas I was a bit more of a recluse, I liked the quiet, the peace, being with the animals. And that's now, looking back, I realised that it may be not normal as a whatever is normal, but for like the influence of my parents, they sometimes felt that I should be more social.
Yeah.
But actually I found that extremely draining and hard on me. And that's, without even knowing it, I tried to avoid that, to protect myself from it. And it's just like the minute I've gone, oh, I'm just highly sensitive. Well, that's fine. I can go out and do these things, but I also need time then to myself to recover. And allowing that and accepting that that's part of who I am. I mean, we've kind of walked off the authentic path, but that allows me to be more authentic because I can say, nope, I'm totally overwhelmed. I can't cope with a social activity just now. Or, yes, let's go for it, and just kind of...
But that's the thing. You can't be authentic if you're not aware of who you are and if you don't accept who you are.
Yeah.
Because you need to do both those things to then be authentic.
And I find it now is like, if I'm in a situation where I really sort of hold myself back from who I am and I don't say the things I would wish I would say, and I don't behave in the way that I would like to behave in front of people and being myself, like, it grates against me.
Yeah.
it makes me feel worse.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, sometimes, like, people don't even understand that that's why they don't feel good a lot of the time, and it's just because they're not actually they're just inhibiting themselves and not being themselves so much that it's like going against yourself, Yeah.
But then, so is it being unauthentic? Is that a word? Unauthentic? Is it being unauthentic to, I don't like the word hide, but just like not mention a part of yourself to someone else?
Yeah, that is hard. I totally get that.
Because that's like, I enjoy video games. So I'm a bit of a gamer. Most people who know me from a work situation wouldn't guess that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have a clue that that's the type of person I am.
But, like, that's just your likes. Is it about who you are? Is it just your likes? Some
My
of your
likes
likes
are
you
part
don't
of
share.
who I am.
Yeah,
That's an even better question. Are my likes who I am?
Yeah. Well, it's like my first introduction thing. How do you describe who you are without saying what you do?
What you do, what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true. So you didn't answer my question.
No. What was your question?
Is it being...
unauthentic.
Unauthentic.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the right word there.
Yeah.
But is it being unauthentic to... It's not even that you're hiding, but just like you just don't go
Don't give all the details.
You don't give all the details.
I think, so I've come to learn, and I don't know if this is right or not, but some people get you and some people don't.
Oh.
And I don't now waste my time on getting people to get me and like me if I know that they're just not going to get it. And usually that's by giving a little bit of who I am.
Yep.
And seeing and feeling their reaction and knowing if that conversation can continue in that way or whether just be like, okay, yeah, we're that kind of relationship where it's just like, it's just face value. It's just what you see. I'm not giving you much depth. And, in that way you just kind of move on. You have your more deep relationships. And so it's like, it is the different people you know and you meet, you do seem to show different aspects of yourself.
Yeah, different
and
sides.
It's not necessarily to fit in. It's like, it's interesting for me, like what's coming up is I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
By showing them something of who I am
that
is just too much for them to even grasp.
That's it. And it's that thing. It's more of a concern about how they're going to feel about it themselves. And this is maybe an age thing as well, because realistically, it doesn't bother me what they think of it. If they think, oh, you shouldn't be like that, or you shouldn't do that, or whatever, that doesn't bother me. It's more like...
It's a waste of energy.
It's just a waste of time to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's it. You just know. And what I find, though, is you tend to make connections like that, and they don't get it, and they don't get that side of you. And then it seems to be, like a few years later, they're suddenly like, how you mentioned, and they've remembered it. Like, it's sat with them, and it's, it's something that they've then come across again and again. It's just like it was their time to then understand that concept or that part of you that they didn't before, and they'll come back and be like, tell me more. And it's really interesting how that happens. So it just shows you shouldn't hide it, but you, like, I don't know, it's interesting. Do you feel judged by giving away too much? I mean, it's like I have like trust issues, so I'll keep my cards close to my chest until I feel like I can trust or be trusted.
I think
to just kind of
100% you are judged, and even like judged is a word that makes it seem negative, but evaluated. I mean, that doesn't sound any better.
And we've all talked about it. Sorry to interrupt. It's just their perspective.
Yeah, it's completely their perspective. But when
you
meet someone, you are learning things about them, their likes, their dislikes, their personality, and you are judging or evaluating or whatever word you want to use to assess what that sort of person is and whether they're someone you want to be friends with, how close friends you. So everything that you say, do, and or reveal to people, it matters. People will judge you for it. Yeah. But that's okay.
That's still them, not you.
That's
it's
them
like
judging
that's
you.
fine.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if they judge me and they judge they don't like that in me,
well, then it's not,
that's fine.
You don't waste your time on it. And like I said, sometimes those people come back after a time and want to know you. You know, it's like it's a timing thing.
But being unauthentic would be trying to make that person think
that you're someone else.
That you're the person that they, or you think they want you to be.
Well, there's that.
It gets real complicated.
There's that whole meme, isn't there? Like, people's opinion of you, or what? God, I always butcher these because I can never remember them probably. But it's basically people's opinion of you are their own.
Yes.
And it's not actually anything to do with you.
Yep.
It's all to do with them.
How everyone sees you is nothing at all like you are.
It's their perspective. So it's like what their programming's been. You know, how they see life. So it's like
the type of day they're having. Yeah.
Well, it's like, so for me, you know, because I come across it quite a lot because I'm an energy healer. And people ask, you know, well, what do you do? Well, I'm an energy healer. And like sometimes the air just drops out the room. You know, it's just like, but they've had a really interesting conversation with me and I'm talking about really interesting things. But when I define it as I'm an energy healer, it's like, it's too much.
Yep.
And even though they can see that they have that connection and understanding, it's like the label is being highly sensitive, I can feel the reaction. Yep. And honestly, it still hurts. Like I still haven't figured out how to allow that judgment to just be.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that is the hard thing about sort of showing who you are to people and being truly authentic with yourself and with other people. It's hard when they may have opinions of you that are different, but that's okay.
But sometimes their opinions have come from their programming. You know, 100%. It's like it's not actually even their opinions.
All of our opinions have come from our life experiences and our programmings.
It's just,
and opinions change, and
it's really interesting. Like, it's really interesting that the social dynamic of it, you know, how people are and how people perceive things. And then, you know, you can just be you, but the way they see you is not the way you see yourself. And so even though you're being authentically you don't know what they're really seeing.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think that's the thing with authenticity is you have to know who you are and be comfortable with who you are to be authentic.
Yeah.
You have to, warts and all, this is who I am. And
it's like,
I accept that.
For me, I don't know about you, it's like taken me a long time to have the confidence in who I am.
Yeah.
You know, to show my weaknesses or what I perceive as my weaknesses. And realizing that, you know, I have my own Facebook page, you know, the social media, and I haven't done a lot with it recently, but, you know, I went through a phase of sort of showing the mistakes I'd made with animals in my life and the understandings I'd come to through the animals and, you know, what they've taught me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's showing a side of me that I feel is, you know, a weakness and the failures and things like that. But the response is, you know, people realize I'm human.
Yes.
You know, because when you see social media pages, they can be very robotic, and when they can relate to it and they can understand you as a person. And I you know, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it's people relating and understanding to who you are because they realize that you are more than just what they perceive.
That's it. Well, I mean, you're not getting off topic. You're hitting the most unauthentic thing in the world, which is social media.
Yeah.
The personas that people put out is, like you say, it's the 1%. It is the highly edited part of their life.
It's what they want you to see.
It's what they want you to see, so you can look at it and go, oh, I wish I was them. Well, you know what? The 99% of the time, they're not that person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, it's really interesting, and I've really enjoyed sharing part of my life journey, and I really, as part of the podcast, you know, as, you know, when we talk about a topic, is talking about how I've experienced and how it's been tough for me. And, you know, because everyone relates to that because it's suddenly like, oh, someone else has had a similar struggle, you know, and understanding that you can talk about it.
You know, we were talking about this today it was actually about horse trainers, and quite a well-known horse trainer that someone I work with went to go and see. And he'd asked for problem horses to be brought out so that he could do demonstrations and things like this. And their neighbour had a horse that had a whole litany of problems. They took it in, he sort of did 20 minutes with it and said, nope, not dealing with that horse. And the reason was that he couldn't deal with that horse in a sort of 10-minute section to sort of dazzle everybody with his brilliance. Now, could he have fixed that horse? Yes, no, maybe. But it's very unauthentic to cherry pick the cases where there's very slight problems that maybe their owners didn't quite know how to handle, but you've come across it before and you know, if I just do this, it'll work this one time and everyone will go, wow, that's amazing. And that's definitely, in my opinion, not authentic. What would have been authentic would have been to take that horse in there, do a little bit with it and say, okay, here are the issues we're having. We can't handle these issues in 10 minutes.
But in 10 minutes, you
can
make
something.
a micro, and it's because
but
it's micro.
That doesn't dazzle.
Exactly.
That doesn't wow.
But, you know, to me, like, this is where we get into, like, being in alignment with people. It's like, to me, when I see people make the smallest improvements in something that is so massive, it's like those little steps we've talked about. When people take those little baby steps, or an animal takes a little baby step into the recovery of what they've been going through, it's like, for me, I'm just like, yes,
that's it.
Total celebration. Not with myself.
Yeah.
I'm never very good at celebrating my own little baby steps, but and it's hard for me, and I'm sure it's hard for everyone else. When you're looking at yourself, you feel like you've never improved. And then, you know, you've got things like Rhoda was on the podcast with her determination one. And, you know, going from celebrating having a wheelchair to now she walks without a wheelchair. You know, it's like, it's
that's quite a large step.
Yeah. I mean, it was over years, but she did all the micro steps, and it was only when she had the memory come up on Facebook of the celebrating getting a wheelchair, which offered freedom for her.
Yeah.
That, oh my goodness.
How ridiculous does that seem?
Yeah, now I'm walking, you know?
That's it. And like, I understand with the horse trainer about showmanship and selling tickets and, you know, the whole business side of things. But it is an inauthentic thing to do.
Well, it's like that sort of thing puts me off. And being highly sensitive, and a lot of people pick up on it, is they can feel it and they'll turn away and they'll go to the right person.
The person who saw this was like, okay, that's fine, that's who you are. And rightly so, there's things I can learn from you. Yeah. But you're just showing the easy,
Well, probably when they have time, like, they're very good at what they do. And it's that balance between showmanship and actually being authentically you and doing what you can do. Yeah.
And I mean, I always say that at work with people I work with. It's like, if you say, I don't know how to do this, I'm never going to be annoyed at that. If you say, oh yeah, that's no problem at all, and you struggle away and you have no idea what you're doing and you do it wrong and it's a disaster, and then I come back, did you get it done? Oh yeah, no problem. And then I go and look and it's a disaster. I'm like, well, what? Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't know how to do it. Well, that's not my, like, if you'd come to me and said, I don't know how to do it, and I said, well, just do it anyway. Like, that's the being authentic. That's the being, and that's the hardest part of being authentic, is being okay with the places you feel like you fall short or your limitations. Yeah,
and it's like something that I do in it, because we go to kickboxing class together, is like, if I'm unsure, show me again, please. Yep. What are you doing there? Show me again. This is happening. Show me. It's like, I want to learn. And I think as well, I was great. I'm 40 now, I've got age on my side. I have that thing where I'm like, I really don't care. Just show me. I want to improve. But I know in my younger years, I was very shy and quiet. Sometimes speaking out was hard. But quite early on in my years, I did learn to ask questions. Like, I wanted to know.
Big part.
But that is a big part. And quite often, though, if you find you ask the question, the person next to you, or a few of the people are like, oh, thank God, because I didn't understand it either. But they were too afraid to ask the question. So age
age does
an experience. It's age, experience, whatever. It helps you.
And I was lucky. The way I grew up, like I got very quickly to a point where I don't care what people think about me. I took it too far. I got quite rebellious with it. And the more people said I should do something, the less I would do it. And that perhaps still carries through.
Occasionally.
But I was very fortunate to be in that position that I really don't care what your opinion is of me. Yeah. I'm comfortable with who I am. But like I say, the hard part of that, and even from taking that stance quite young, the hardest part for me was then to be, yeah, okay, I can't do these things. I'm not good at this. So it seems everyone I ever meet, everyone is always musical. And I am so not musical, but I really like to be musical. And I always had this thing, and this part that helped me be authentic and accept who I was. I could probably learn to do everything. And I've struggled away a little bit backwards and forwards with trying to be musical and never got anywhere. And I'm getting to the stage that I'm like, well, you know what? It's not one of my strengths. I'm sure if I dedicated a whole portion of my life to it, I could get better at it. But it would be an uphill struggle for me. And that's okay. Except when I'm singing in public, people look at me strange.
I just sing along with you.
Yeah. Just louder to drown me out.
No. We could just be out of tune together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic, and it's an interesting thing to think about is who you are. Who are you being? I think before you can be authentic, you have to be aware and accept who you are. Yeah, flaws and all. Flaws and all. Yeah, everything about you. And I hate the term flaws. Yeah, flaw. I said it, and I was like, that's not the right word. I don't even like limitations. No, there's no limitations. That's just something you create. But it's just like, well, because you would say it's like something that you think is quotation a flaw. Yeah. To another person can be something that they really strive to have or be. That's it. So it's again, it's about your perspective. So when we talk about other people judging you, judging yourself for who you think you are, that's actually really bad. I have a great one. When we first met many years ago, you straightened your hair. Yep. Because you have curly hair. Yep. How many girls did you know at school that had straight hair that wanted curly hair? Yep. And funny enough, that thought went through my mind, is that thing. And it's actually only 2 years ago I stopped straightening my hair. Yep. And that was another part of being more authentically me. Yep. And it's a very minor nothing thing. But honestly, it was very freeing for me to allow my hair to be how it is. Yeah. And it's very... So I had a moment that I had to accept a part of me, which was when I started going grey, which, I don't know, how old was I? 30? I wasn't that old when I started getting bits of grey hair. Stressed you. It's living with me. It's living with me. But it was like, oh, geez, I'm already starting to get grey hairs. And like, I'm not completely grey yet. No. But I'm getting there. And to start with, it was hard. It was a hard thing to be like, oh. But that's because the stigma is you shouldn't be grey until you're old. There's a whole concept about being grey, that you're old. Yep. It's like, actually, when you think about it, it's, your opinion of grey is not your opinion of grey. Yeah. It is what you are told to believe about being grey. Definitely. And it's funny, I've seen a lot of people, so I've gone curly, I've seen a lot of people stop dyeing their hair that have gone grey as well. And it's just like, the choice that I've always, I don't want the chemicals of the hair dye, but I've very early on, and I've not started to go terribly grey yet, but there's some hairs coming in. Terribly grey. Terribly is not the word. I just mean lots of grey. Not nearly as terrible as me. is that I will not be dying that.
Yeah.
I want to grow old disgracefully, Yeah. And it's funny, the older I get, the more I am. I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, we're both very fortunate because we're married and happy in our relationship, I hope.
We don't have to prove ourselves to anyone. Yeah.
So it's like, really, I'm going great. Well, as long as it doesn't bother you that much, then does it really matter? But even so, if I was single and I was thinking about finding a woman, then I wouldn't want someone who the fact that I have some grey hairs was like, oh no.
Well, that's it. It's suddenly you realise that the things that may have been a problem or you may think is a problem is actually you change that. You're not being authentically you and you're hiding who you are.
Yeah. And like in relationships, that sounds like a terrifying place to be, hiding who you are for a relationship. Because then what happens if it turns into quite a good relationship? It's like, oh God, well, they better not find out who I really am.
Yeah, by the way, I'm like this. Yeah, did that happen to you with me?
No comment. No, you mellowed with years.
Did I?
Oh, yeah.
In a good way.
In a good way.
But I'm still wild.
You're still wild. You're more free.
I'm more free,
Which allowed you to mellow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's an interesting part of it, that you were so pumped up and coiled tightly, and at times you still get coiled tightly.
Yeah.
But the more you're authentic with yourself, accept yourself, the freer and more laid back you get.
Yeah. And the easier life is, to be honest.
Oh my God, life is so much easier when you're just like, yep, this is who I am.
This is who I am. Yep. Well, thank you very much for joining me for...
It was interesting.
Yeah. It was...
Although I feel like we strayed off of being authentic.
No, I don't think we did. I think we just went around the subject, like what it means.
Yes. But like I say, I think that is the important part of being. You can't be authentic unless you accept who you are.
Yeah.
Accept who you are, because everyone's amazing.
Yeah. And we're all meant to be different and individual.
Who would want to be the same?
Exactly. That's the exciting part. Being different and individual, and it's like you were put here on this planet to be you. And be who you are and be that different person. So be that different person.
I agree.